Well, this morning we are actually going to be talking about the body, but in a different way. Continuing conversations of health in some spheres, we're looking at the organ transplant donor system in Trinidad and Tobago and how it needs change, at least seen through the eyes of one of our guests in studio, Mr. Anderson Mitchell, an organ transplant patient, as well as Daniel Defantala, who will be joining us via phone. So let me say good morning to you physically first. Good morning, Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us and
I'm happy to be here.
Of course, in terms of telling the story, this is exactly what we need.
I'm happy to be alive.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And the sentiments are shared with Daniel, who is on the phone. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning.
Glad to hear you in good spirits, man. I like this good morning being bright and chipper. Because what we're talking about, I know, is something that's very, very sensitive to you.
Yeah.
We're going to start, though, with a little bit of your story, Daniel, because there are persons who may not be familiar, but what stood out to me most was that it almost came out of the blue, your complications with your kidney, brought on largely due to stress. Yes?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, in
That's what I
terms...
was.
Go right ahead. In terms of giving us a little bit of a preamble, give us a timeline as to when you first began to experience symptoms to the point of getting into the donor system and that experience.
Oof. I was diagnosed officially at the end of 2018, but I started to feel the effects all through that year. And I was doing everything wrong, everything. You know, when you're feeling sick, they tell you, drink some coconut water. Last thing your kidneys need. So I was doing everything I shouldn't have done. Drinking coconut water, eating bananas, putigal, you name it. Until I was just so sluggish, I couldn't move. And one of my friends bundled me into the car, and she says, that's it. I'm taking you to doctor. Because she thought I had cancer. Yeah, and next thing you know, the doctor's like, get to a hospital right now.
Now, once you got to the hospital right now and the diagnosis was confirmed, the inclusion into, well, the discovery that there would be the need for you to be involved in the, rather, included in the donor system locally. Let's focus a little bit on that part of things, because I know that there was a lot of trouble there.
Oof. Well, like, when I got there, my doctor was like, well, you're an ideal candidate for a transplant. And then we started to explore all the options, and then he told me, well, go to the transplant unit here and sign up. But right then, COVID hit, and literally the transplant unit was locked up. So it took me 2 years to get onto the program. And when I finally did, they said, right, we're going to do you. They said, you're ready, we're going to do it. So I had a big concert to raise funds, and people kept saying, well, if it's free, why are you raising funds? Well, because we need money to live and we can't work. Anyways, raise funds, was told in July that in August we will do the transplant. August came, August went, the surgeon got COVID. The other one was put on leave. Then I heard 2 friends got jumped ahead of me. Then I was lucky. I've never been without a donor. And my donor at the time, one of 2, she discovered that she had early stage breast cancer. So that ruled her out. But furthermore, before the surgeon, well, the attending doctor, I guess, went on super leave. I was told he was like, okay, December 7th we're going to do the surgery. And so we were like 2 weeks before December 7th, and we realized, well, what's going on? And then the new doctor said, well, I don't know anything about that. We don't do surgeries in December. So then was a snowball from hell. it's been years now. Where are we now? 2024, 2 more years, and we're still here.
So
Oh,
I'm
and
going to
then I
check.
developed
I'm going to check
other
in.
things
Daniel, I'm going
happen.
to check in with Anderson because I want to get a little bit of
Yes.
comparison, if you will, since I know that you both, of course, share a similar story in being in need of donors and in need of transplants. But Anderson, was your situation the same in terms of a long process, or even from discovery to the diagnosis to being inculcated into the donor program? Was it a similar situation?
Okay, well, first I want to mention that Danielle has been a really good person for me to talk to. She's been very inspirational, and I really admire her bravery in dealing with this. And I too have gotten a lot of motivation to publicize this particular story, more so because of her. And I mean, when we talk, she's one person who could understand me wholeheartedly, and I could understand her wholeheartedly. So our conversations are really beneficial. So to get to your question, my situation is a little bit different, but basically the same. My kidney failure is caused by something called FSGS. It's an autoimmune disease, so that means that I basically it's in my DNA, right? And some people are like this. When I initially started dialysis, it was in about 2016. In 2017, I had a really bad blood infection that kept me in the hospital for about 4 months. And I started to seek getting on the transplant list, but just like Daniel said, when the pandemic hit, they basically stopped taking names and whatever. My doctor informed me that the last transplant, I'm not going to mention any of their names, but the last transplant he did was in 2022, March, I believe. But there hasn't been any transplants since. The issue right now is that deceased donors are what make up the majority of transplants in the world. Is about 90%.
Right.
So because we don't have a deceased donor transplant list right now, that I wouldn't say responsibly, but it falls a little bit on the public to come forward now and say, here, what, I want to be a live donor. I have 2 kidneys. You need one, I only need one, so therefore I could share. And you can imagine that in Trinidad, that is difficult to communicate because a lot of people are ignorant of what is involved in becoming a kidney donor. My doctor will say, like, that's the easiest transplant to do. We say people think that it's a big deal, but we don't have anybody who's ever suffered from becoming a kidney donor, doing stuff like liver and heart. And he said those things are way harder. But the only transplants that we really do in Trinidad are kidney, for obvious reasons. But even so, we're kind of not doing them.
Right. So what I'm hearing is, while Daniel may have been lucky to have had a donor all along and is simply waiting to actually have her surgery performed, you, on the other hand, have not had that success. You are still in the process of looking for a donor, perhaps?
Okay. I've had 3 donors over the last few years. And I think that the issue that I've come across is a little different from Daniel as well. I'm having to deal with ignorance. I'm having to deal with people, people coming forward and saying, I want to do this. This is something good to do. I think that I will receive blessings, and people that I've spoke to who have donated kidneys, they say it's one of the best things that they've ever done in their life. But people seem to think it's like giving up your life. And it's totally not that at all.
Daniel, I feel like you want to add from your experience, because I imagine you would have had conversations with possible donors as well, correct?
I have. I've been lucky that 2, 3 live donors have come forward. One was a match, but she had complications with her kidney herself. So that was a problem. But at my concert, we signed up 91 live donors. Well, donors. I do think they meant to be live. And even at the concert was where one of my donors decided that she was going to give me a kidney.
Okay.
They would be deceased donors.
So as
Yeah,
in,
they would be.
Right. But with the current system, all those sign-ups that you had would amount to
gone
nothing.
through.
Right?
Yeah,
Because
they did
if I'm registered as a deceased donor right now and I, Lord forbid, I die, well, I mean, you don't want my kidneys not good, right? But if somebody who is registered as a deceased donors dies now, their organs will be wasted because we're not doing what the system is the problem, right? And this is what I want to raise awareness on. In let's say if you live in Holland or you live in the UK or France or whatnot, more than likely when you go to do your driver's license, they will ask you, you get to opt out. You get to opt out of being a kidney donor. In Trinidad, it's the opposite. You have to opt in. You have to go to the to Mount Hope, to the transplant unit, and tell them I want to sign up. But even if you do, it still amounts to naught because they're not doing what is necessary to make sure that they find matches, that they could say, hey, we found a kidney for you. Come in, let's do some tests, necessary tests to see if we could fix the situation. And that is the issue. Something good to note, the system is only getting worse. I've been in the system 10 years. And generally, if you look at the WHO, the statistics on WHO, life expectancy in Trinidad has decreased significantly since 2012. In 2012, the average Trinidadian lived till 74. But now, they live to about 70 or 71. What is causing that? And why is it continuing to decrease? And we know that it's not the pandemic because for most countries, their life expectancy went down for about a year or two. It's been 4 years since the pandemic. Why is it continuously still going down? And if you look at countries like Japan that have a life expectancy of 74, they have 10 years more to live than us. Why is this happening? And when are we going to take a stand? I don't want to take an accusative stance, but I want to inform people. This is what's happening.
And I appreciate that you took the time to do that this morning, but it is certainly a conversation that we have to continue.
Yes.
We unfortunately have run out of time on this one, and I'm not surprised because there's a lot to delve into. But I do know that efforts to continuously meet donors and continue to challenge the process right now are what we're going to continue to do. So Daniel, for now, we're pinning the conversation, and we will check in with you perhaps later on or in the next calendar year, as well as you, Anderson, because this is certainly something we appreciate you sharing, shedding some light on, and something that we hope we can continue to shed some light on too. Thank you for joining us. The conversation will continue, this and others, of course, after this break here on the Now Morning Show.